Welcome to the Clean Truth, where we like to call bullshit on the status quo. What is up? Welcome back to the Clean Truth. I'm Don. I'm your host. Silver Fox is back with us.
Here we are.
This will be the first podcast that airs for 2021. I'm pretty excited. We got a pretty cool guest on the show. I've been looking forward to this. Mr. Matt Drury from Drury Outdoors.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Good.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, man. How about you?
We're excited to have you on today.
So, Matt, we always play a little game before we get into the podcast. Usually I bust Ben's balls about something to open the show, but I don't really have anything to bust his balls about today. But we always do a little, like a clean truth or dare, and I put it out on social media and let people ask us some borderline edgy stuff if they want to do it. So the one truth that I got that I thought was pretty funny, some of these people that do this, they need Jesus in their life, because I got some pretty whacked out stuff that I'm not going to put up here. But the cool one I got was, what is your biggest fear while you're working out?
Wow.
I know what mine is, but Matt, I'll let you go first, man. You're the guest.
Letting it rip while you're doing a squat or something.
So what's yours, Ben?
Mine would probably be the scary one. Mine would be I hate seeing people in the gym with the thumb unwrapped around the bar. That scares the crap out of me. You always hear the horror stories of people having the bar come crashing down to their neck. Like, that scares me. So I'm always thinking about, better safe than sorry.
I think mine would be right there with Matt, except mine would be, just all out shit in my pants. That would be a scary one for me. But
Any close calls?
No, never have. So anyway, let's dive into this. Matt, I just wanted to bring you on, man, because Ben and I personally have gotten back into hunting recently. And Ben just started with me. We just bought some new bows together and have kind of just reintroduced ourselves to the outdoors. I hunted a little bit when I was in my early 20s, and then starting the business with my wife and just, there really isn't any excuses other than I just kind of took it for granted where I lived when I used to live back there in St. Louis where you're at.
Yeah.
And, man, I'm regretting it.
Because you miss it.
Yeah, I really wish I would not have taken a 20-year hiatus and not appreciated being in the outdoors.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we saw it here this last year. March hits, COVID, strikes, and everybody's panicking and in oh shit mode. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, I can't get some of the basic necessities that I take for granted. I can't go to the grocery store because the shelves are empty. I can't get out. I can't go to fast food. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's all of a sudden it's like, wait, you know what? Maybe hunting wasn't such a bad thing anyways, because over the past, really ever since Bambi hit, hunting has been kind of vilified. And it's a shame because the way that Hollywood portrays hunting is in no way, shape, or form what hunting really is. And, we've battled this forever as hunters. And as society has changed through the last couple decades, 3-4 decades, and our needs and kind of the way that we do mass food production and all this stuff, hunting has kind of fallen by the wayside for a lot of folks. And there's a lot of reasons why. It could be the privatization of land. It could be youth sports have a big part of it. You don't have a mentor to show you how to hunt. There's all kinds of reasons why people fall out of hunting. But as shit hit the fan this year, all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I need to know how to fill my own freezer. If everything,
for sure.
You know what I mean? If things go by the wayside here, and I don't think this is going to happen, but what happened is it brought people back to the realization that hunting isn't a bad thing. When you're hunting for sustenance and you're filling your freezer and you're eating what you kill, it's, that's the way the majority of hunters are. But the way that it's been portrayed in media and Hollywood, it's that we're all trophy hunters. Well, guess what? You can still try to get the biggest buck out there, but you eat it still. Sure. I mean, we don't just leave it, cut its head off and leave it there to lay. It's just a bunch of misconceptions on how hunting really is portrayed. And I think there's people like Cameron Hanes and, Joe Rogan got on kind of the bandwagon, and there's a lot of guys that they're spreading the message in a good way for all of us. We've been in business over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of changes over that time period. But I think in the last 5 years or so, we've started to see a positive outreach from guys like Joe Rogan, kind of, even though he's not the most hardcore hunter and he's learning a lot as he goes here, his voice reaches so many people. So that helps all of our cause in the hunting industry.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of business, talk about Drury Outdoors and what all you guys do. I know, I was introduced to it through Kyle McClellan, I think a mutual friend of ours.
Yep.
And, when I bought our farm not too long ago, I downloaded your app and, kind of started asking buddies around different tips and tricks. And that was the biggest, I think that app was honestly the biggest thing that helped me, right out of the gate. Kyle said, "Hey man, download this app." Ben and I went out a first couple weekends, that I had the property. Yeah. And weather was warm. It was a full moon. And I had a buddy that lived here that told me that. And I was like, man, I had never heard of this. So I reached out to Kyle and was kind of picking his brain. And that's when he just finally was like, "Hey man, check this app out. Matt's bought your meals before. I know you've talked to him online." And it really helped. It really did. And I've learned a lot from it. So talk about what Drury Outdoors does.
Yeah. So my dad and uncle started the company back in 1988. And they started basically to say, my dad's a civil engineer by trade. He's got a construction company. And Mark, he was repping Mossio camouflage at the time. And he was in his early 20s. Dad was in his mid 30s. And Mark was a competitive turkey caller. Like that's a thing. There's turkey calling contests all over the country. And he was I think a 5 or 6 time world natural voice champion. Wow. And so he was kind of in the industry. And in those days, the industry was just starting. And so he got together with Dad and he said, "Look, I see these turkey hunting videos out here, but they're not hunting them. They call these turkeys and they call them in, they get it on video so you can kind of hear the natural tones and noises that turkeys make." He goes, "I think we could do this, but instead of just calling them in, I think we could kill them once we call them in." And so they hunted for 2 springs and they hunted in the Ozark Mountains and down in Arkansas on public ground. And they got enough hunts together and they went down in Mississippi in a van and edited a tape together. And that was the beginning. They started selling those tapes. They were VHS tapes. They were selling them to local rental stores. So they'd sell one VHS tape for $50 and then the rental store would rent it out over and over and over. Well, they started kind of getting a following. In the mid 90s, they started making deer hunting videos and they kind of hit it big and they partnered with Outdoor Life, the NRA, and a few other big companies and affinity marketing programs where if you were one of their members, you'd get a VHS and it was one of our titles. And if you didn't send it back, they'd send you another one. Well, they did millions of titles during those periods. That it was like probably a 5-7 year period. They did millions, distributed millions of titles. And that's when we really kind of started to gain some momentum. And then in the early 2000s, Mossio came to us and said, "Hey, we want you guys to produce a TV show for us." And that just changed our world. After that, we've produced 4 TV shows, 52 original half-hour episodes every single year. We have a huge social media following, over 2.5 million followers across all the different platforms. And as you were alluding to, we created and launched an app back in August of 2018. We came up with this idea in 2016 of one of our TV shows teaches people a lot about hunting and how and why deer move, specifically deer hunting. It's called 13. And so we took that principle and we said, how can we make it easier? Well, everybody's got one of these. Let's get it into the palm of their hands and let's continue to teach people how to be successful. Sure. Because one of the biggest barriers you have, say you two go out and you go hunting 5-6 times and you're like, we haven't seen shit. Like, what's the problem with us? Either we don't have deer or we suck. What's going on? Sure. Well, deer move because of certain weather conditions. And that's one thing that Mark and Terry, they're very analytical guys. And over the years, they've kind of figured all this out to an extent. And so we came up with an algorithm that predicts deer movement based on weather conditions. So we teamed up with Weather Channel, with IBM Corp, who owns Weather Channel. We use their API, so it's all legitimate weather source coming in hour by hour. And you put in your location. The app's called DeerCast. You put in your location, and then it basically predicts based on the weather variables if the deer are going to move great, good, okay, poor, or badly. And that can mean a bunch of different things for different people. If you're hunting at Mark and Terry's place, they have bigger farms and they're manicured for deer hunting, and there's not much intrusion, and which is a big factor in hunting. They might have better movement. Like a great day might see 30 deer for them, but a great day for you or me might be 10 deer. So that's all relative to your hunting spot. It's all relative to how you accessed your ground, how you went in. Like, did you walk through the bedding area? There's a billion different things that we can't control, but generally speaking, the weather and why deer move, we do kind of have that locked in, and that's what the app is based around.
That's awesome. I know there was one feature on there that I wanted to ask you about, and I was waiting for the show to do it. So Scott's got it kind of pulled up on our monitor here behind you, and you can't really see it. But on the top of the DeerCast app, there's a button there that you can control, and you can move it up and down. What exactly does that do? That's
that's called DeerCast Custom. It's a custom slider. So if, in your opinion, every time we say it's a great day out, but to you on your farm, it just seems like it's okay or it's good, you slide that thing down towards the negative a little bit, and you customize our algorithm. Our algorithm's still predicting it the same way, but you can make it a little more positive or negative based on the movement you see on your farm.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I was wondering what that did. Man, I've got there's so many good videos on there, and I've learned a lot just since I've downloaded it and been watching them in the last couple of weeks. I think it's really cool.
Well, and that's the thing. So it's one thing to give somebody the tool to say, hey, it's going to be great, go hunt. It's another thing to have all the videos in there that teach you why, so that ultimately you make these decisions on your own. You still use the app. It's a nice guide. I use it every time I hunt, but it's not the definitive factor in why I hunt. The other day I had an okay forecast because it was warm, but I had a spot that I needed a south wind, which typically comes with warm weather. It's a south wind spot where I was hunting, and it's in the bedroom of this deer I was after. So I went in there, even though it wasn't a great day, and sure enough, he come out early, and I almost killed him there. He came within 30 yards just behind a tree. I didn't have the shot. So you still have to take what you're learning in the app and take what you're learning just by your visual MRI and put that to work and make decisions for yourself. This is just a good guideline and a good starting tool.
No, it definitely helped us for sure. I think the morning after our second hunt together, we were frustrated and we were having a little late coffee and breakfast sandwich, and Don's like, damn it, all right, let's download this app and start doing more research. And we were like, all right, got to get our education up.
Well, I mean, in our own defense, that was the first week I had owned the property that we bought, and we didn't put anything down. We didn't do any kind of prep work. We just literally went and, put our scent block on and went and sat in a stand just to see what we would see. And I think it was just really, the weather was just warm. We're in southeastern North Carolina, so that was almost a month ago, and we were still hitting 70-degree temps back then in the morning. So
yeah, and it's definitely geography plays a big part in it. Different, like in the Midwest, like you were saying, you didn't know what you had when you were in St. Louis. The Midwest is notorious for growing giant whitetails because of the soil. It's so fertile. That means the corn, the beans, the ag is so abundant. They're eating stuff that helps the nutrients, which ultimately helps their racks grow bigger, their body weight, everything. And so we're blessed in the fact that we're in an area where we grow big whitetails. And if you then start managing your deer herd, meaning planting food plots, creating more cover for them, which is, meaning where they sleep, their bedding, making sure there's water source around, the things that they look for. And then, planting food plots is a whole different thing where you're creating food for them for year round, not just because the farmers, they'll plant ag, but they're going to cut that in October, corn, beans, whatever. So then it's gone. They're looking for food sources. That's where we come in with our food plots. So there's a ton of strategies around that, but down in the South and the Northeast, like people are planting food plots everywhere. You don't have to have the best dirt necessarily to do that. You can, lime and fertilize and do things to help your own cause there. So that's, you can geek out on the hunting side and learning how to hunt. you get into the food plotting and land management, and you're helping not only your deer herd, but turkeys and, pheasant, quails, whatever, there's all kinds of things that you can do to be a land manager. And so you're starting your evolution right now. And you're going to, in 5 years, you're going to look back and you're going to be so, you can ask Kyle, you'll be so neck deep into it. You're like, man, I can't believe what we've created here. Your farm will look totally different in 5 years than it did today. And it's all because you decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to try something new. So honestly, the way I look at it, I don't think it's too indifferent from nutrition, from working out, from you don't know what you don't know. So what do you do when you want to get into it? You dive into the internet, you find podcasts that, the guys at First Farm, guys like you, the Clean Eats, you do those things to be better. And when you want to get better at hunting, you find a source that's, number one, and you try to get as much information as you can. Very similar.
No, absolutely.
You've already started doing some of that.
No, yeah, you said the farm would look better or look different in 5 years. I think it looks different already from when I bought it a month ago, just from the little bit of stuff that I've done. But, I bought that place. I was shooting in those I shot in a couple of the pistol matches, the USPSA matches with a buddy of mine here, and I knew I wanted a place to shoot because he was about an hour and 20 minutes away from where I lived. So for me to go up there and shoot for the entire day, after I would load all my gear up in my truck, run up there, shoot in a match for 5 to 6 hours, and come back home. I mean, that was a long day. And so me and my wife were talking, and we wanted a place that we could go and kind of get away. And we started to look at like places up in Boone to go up in the mountains and things like that, because we were going to like App State football games and stuff like that. And we decided against that. Buying a place 5 hours away that we might use 6 times a year was just a little absurd at the time. So I started looking around here, and I found this place, and it was just way too good to pass up. And my original intent was to go out there and build a place that I could shoot. And then we wound up closing on it. I went out there, and I was like, man, I don't want to disturb this ground. There's a ton of wildlife here, and I was looking for something to kind of get away and use it as a stress relief, and and obviously put meat in my freezer and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just kind of changed my whole outlook on the whole place when I bought it. I was like, man, I want to learn how to hunt. I want to start doing these things again, because it's something that I can put business on the back burner and kind of turn my mind off for a little while, if you will. But you're right. I've already talked about there's about a 10-acre plot up in the front that's perfect to put food plots down, and I've shot videos to Kyle and a couple other guys, and they're like, man, you got the perfect spot there. So you're right, man. When you dive into it, you'll get neck deep in there real quick.
And it all depends on what your goals are. So for you decide to switch your goals and be more of a kind of a retreat. For guys like Sal and Andy, I know they use, Andy's property, that they ride their 4-wheelers and they shoot guns, and
sure.
It's different. They're not hunters. That's not something they're as interested in. So they use it for different. It's still a recreational piece of property, and they use it differently than what I would or what you may, because your goals are different. So that's you. It's cool that you already figured out what your goal is, and now it's all about kind of customizing and working towards that goal.
Sure. What you got any tips for a couple newbies that are sitting here trying to
talk to us about what's your opinion on two guys hunting together in the same stand, or do you think that's super difficult? Because I was kind of thinking about that. I'm like, all right, should we be dividing and conquering in the mornings? Or, I mean, sometimes we get to we've started out like hunting in the same stand, and it's kind of like fellowship, get up early together, go out there together. Or do you think we should do a little bit of both? What's your opinion on, two guys hunting together? I know a lot of people take one person with them to video, and the other person is the hunter for the day.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your opinion on that.
My entire life, I've never hunted one time. I'll be 40 here in a couple months. I've never hunted one time in my entire life without a camera person. So I don't know what it's like to hunt on your own.
Yeah.
So for me, it is a lot about fellowship, because I mean, that some of that downtime in a stand or in a blind, that's some of the funnest part, because there's plenty of time where deer aren't moving while you're waiting for them to move. And so what are you going to do? You're going to shoot the shit for the most part. You're going to just hang out. And I mean, some of my best friends now have been camera guys, and the way that we do it, usually so we're managing for certain quality of deer. Well, that doesn't mean that there might be, usually it's based on age structure. We look for 5.5-year-old deer or older. And there's a lot of reasons, but they're starting to reach their maturity. The racks are starting to reach their best potential. There's a lot of reasons for it. They're harder to hunt. Well, that doesn't mean that every 5.5-year-old or older is a giant. You can have some real scrubs, that are mature deer that need to be shot. And so a lot of times, whether it's me or my camera guy, we are kind of both hunting. We're hunting different deer. Certain deer step out for him or step out for me. We're both hunting, so we're both kind of, our minds kind of in the game, so to speak. As far as dividing and conquering, that's a good strategy as well, because a lot of times you might go out there, deer cast might say great, and you're like, shit, I didn't see anything. Doesn't mean they weren't moving in that spot. They could have been moving in another spot.
Sure.
Yeah, we've been talking about that.
You only figure that out by trail camera monitoring or by multiple people hunting. So that's always something to think about. The one guy might have had the best night of his life, and the other guy's like, shit, I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
so,
the one cool thing about Don's piece of property is there is a abundance of water. So, but then there's also a large field area. So you've kind of got two completely different like scenarios. You got that big open field where they might pop out of, but then you got the area where they might be searching for water and food and things like that. So
what's the timber like? What's the cover like?
Thick.
It's thick. Yeah. I mean, it's the property that I own is off of the Black River here in southeastern North Carolina, and we're kind of off of the river a little bit in a little tributary that, there's a lot of low-lying wetlands, if you will. It almost looks like a swamp.
Yeah.
So probably 20 acres of the 60 acres that we bought is all swamp. And, so if we get a heavy rain, it fills up with water. And when it's dry, the deer go back there and they bed down and they lay down in there. And then, they'll move from one side of the property to the other throughout the day.
But then that timber area does have some nice lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So Don's had some success like with those lanes because they pop out of that timber area like into those lanes. But we really haven't explored the open field yet. So
by and large, other than the rut, which is when their breeding period is, and that's different depending on which part of the country you're in. But outside of the rut, you're typically looking for deer. You're trying to catch them going from bed to food, or from food to bed. So in the evenings, you're typically catching them going back to, or going from their bedroom to a food source. And then in the mornings, they're going back to the bedroom from the food source. Like that's your best opportunity to try to get on a whitetail and have an opportunity to shoot them. Other than the rut, it's kind of a crapshoot because they're not thinking straight. They're running crazy all through the property. You could see any deer from a 5-mile radius during the rut. They just aren't thinking straight. Think about it when you were a 20-year-old at the bar.
Oh yeah.
It's about like that. So it depends on what time of year it is. It depends on what kind of food source you have. There's a lot of factors in there. So if you don't, say you just bought the property, you don't have any food source on it yet. What's the natural browse? Is it acorns? Do you have acorns on you got to think, where are they gonna be at, and what are they gonna hone in on? They're totally looking at survival all the time, and so especially in the late season, they're trying to get fattened up after the rut's over. They're trying to fatten and replenish all their lost nutrients and get ready for a winter. It may not be as harsh there in that part of the country, but all deer are the same way. They're looking to make it through the winter when food is very scarce. And so you got to kind of find out where they're eating, and that's where they're probably going to be at.
I think one of the best values of the property in terms of a food source, the front two pastures of the property, the guy that owned it before me planted a lot of crabgrass in the fields. And so they love that. I mean, they're up. That's what they're up there eating. So
sure, yeah, that green food source.
So let's switch from deer to turkey, because I know that's one thing Ben and I are like chomping at the bit, and we've got to wait a couple more months. But man, those birds are everywhere out there because nobody hunts them out there. Everybody that has land around me, they don't hunt them.
Yeah, previous owner like even said he was deer only, and the neighbor even said he's deer only.
They
so
don't touch
nobody's
them,
touched the turkeys.
and there's monsters out there, and I know nothing about. I've never done it. Never done it. So
Yeah, so turkey hunting is a lot more fun than deer hunting, and that's an opinion that most hardcore hunters that do both will agree on, because it's a much more social activity. Meaning, you try to locate a bird. So first of all, there's two ways to locate. You could do it at night when they're getting ready to go on the roost. So they fly up into a tree, they sleep in a tree all night. All right. So one thing you can do is Coyote Howl, and you'll hear them. It's called shock gobbling. They'll gobble at that sound. A lot of times they'll shock gobble at a train going by. They'll gobble at a jet flying overhead. Like there's certain sounds that it just triggers them to gobble. Well, you're trying to find out where they're at, right? So if you know where they're roosted at night, well, then you're going in there in the morning, cover of darkness, totally silent, and you're trying to set up within 60 to 100 yards of where they're going to fly down and be at. So what we do a lot of times is we'll put a decoy out. It's Avian X is what we use. They're so lifelike, and we put a decoy out. Maybe it's a hen, maybe it's a jake, and maybe it's both, and depending on what time of the season it is. And that kind of entices them to fly down and come your way. So as it starts to get light out, you start doing a little bit of light calling. It's a hen's sound, the female's sound that you're making, trying to convince the male, the gobbler, to come down. And here again, it's during their breeding season, when the turkey season is. So you're capitalizing off of the fact that they're trying to come and breed the hen. And so, in the morning time, if you can get set up and be where they're at, and set up a decoy, there's a good chance you're just trying to kind of get in their way. The hardest part about turkey hunting, their vision is incredible. They're the dumbest, their brain's this big, and you'd think they're the dumbest bird alive, but they will make you cry every year because they can outsmart you and outwit you, and they can see you from a mile away. They can't smell you, so you don't have to worry about that like you do with deer hunting. You don't have to worry about your wind and all that, but they can see you. So your camouflage got to be on point. Your skills as a hunter have to be pretty good, so when you can move the gun, and all those types of things. Hunting it with, I saw that you mentioned you're ready to hunt, use your bow to hunt turkeys. That's a hard thing to do. So if you might want to start with a gun just to get acclimated to turkey hunting.
We got that lined up also.
Yeah, we're ready to go there, but
and then go from there, because I've seen a lot of people fail trying to use a bow to do it, and tons of people do it, but there's something about shooting them. I don't know if this might not jive with the audience, but a turkey, the hunters always love shooting a turkey in the face with that shotgun. And with a bow, it's just like anticlimactic. You just don't get the same kind of feeling. And there's other reasons you want to shoot it in the face, because you don't want to ruin the breast meat or any of that.
Sure.
Right.
So you're always aiming for the head. But there's nothing that tastes better than a fresh turkey breast, cut up, cubed up, and deep fried.
Damn.
And that probably ain't on the clean truth, but it's tasty.
That sounds good for New Year's.
Yeah, it does. No, I mean, I'm looking forward to the challenge. I definitely want to try it with a bow, but we might try it with a gun first and see how that goes, and just to get acclimated. I mean, I don't even know the first thing about using a turkey call. I'll learn. We got a few months to learn, but
Scratch calls are easier, probably to start.
Well, yeah, friction calls are always going to be your easiest. So a slate call, a box call.
Yeah.
That's a slate call right there. This is a box call right here. These are always your easiest tools. They make push button calls. Friction calls are the easiest thing for beginners. A mouth call, I still haven't mastered it. But now Mark and Terry, like these guys, it's unbelievable hunting with them, because Mark can call a turkey from 500 yards away through hills, creeks, rivers, like it's unbelievable. The guy's, he's really talented at it. And to watch a guy like that do it via a mouth call, it's incredible. Guys like me, we have to rely on slate calls, because I just can't. The sound, it's very specific, and it's hard to do with a mouth call.
Nice.
You just need to buy one just just to piss off Yvonne, just in the house, just keep.
You will. You'll piss her off because it's annoying to listen to.
Well, everybody here knows how my maturity level is. I'd be in my office and the entire office would hear it. I'd be there scratching at it and be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, my daughter's always like, "Ah." So it's
Well,
all good though.
I got a opportunity not too long ago. It's kind of like, I'm very blessed, and to this opportunity kind of fell in my lap. But a buddy of mine, I'm going elk hunting in Idaho in November.
Nice.
So, first year I've ever gone out and started hunting again, and I'm going to Idaho the very next year to go on an elk hunt.
All in.
I was actually
is that a bow hunt or a gun hunt?
No, it's gun. Yeah. I'll be using a 6.5 Creedmoor, but
nice.
I was texting with the guy last night, and I'm trying to get the gear list set up and everything, and I've been friends with this guy forever, and he's one of the guys that taught me how to shoot and everything. And he said, "Man, I'm going to have a talk with you and the other 3 guys that are going." And he said, "I'm not taking guys to Idaho with me anymore unless they're very serious." And I could tell when this guy gets serious, this guy's serious. So he's like, "I've taken people to Idaho for 2 years in a row now, and it's cost me a hunt for 2 years in a row because they weren't physically prepared to go."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Listen, man, I've got $1,000 wrapped up into this trip, and we ain't even started yet. So I'm not going to screw around. I'll be ready to go. Trust me."
You'll be in it for at least 7 by the time it's done. It's just amazing. Like traditional hunters are like, you don't need all that. You don't need camo. I got flannel and, I can do it with a trad bow. That's all great. But they make so much good equipment right now because there's been so many people that have gone through these hunts and realized it'd be a lot easier if I had X, Y, or Z. So why not take advantage of it? You can overdo it certainly, but there's some things that, just freaking, if you can do it and buy it because it will make your life easier in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What is your opinion on the physical aspect of those trips? Have you ever gone out there and done it, or?
Yeah, I went to Utah, would have been 2017, I think, on in northern Utah on an elk trip, and it was a last minute deal. So I was negotiating a new contract with Leupold Optics, and the CEO of Leupold, he wanted to invite Mark or Terry in for a hunt, and they didn't have any interest. It was only like basically somebody dropped out of this hunt, and so they're like, "Hey, Matt would love to go." So I had a 10-day heads up to be in peak shape to go elk hunting, the mountains of Utah. Needless to say, I wasn't in peak shape, so I did the best I could. Luckily, this is kind of a dream to be on the podcast because I use your products religiously, and you could go back and check my order history. Like, this isn't a plug, or I've been using Clean Eats for probably at least 2.5 years now, maybe 3. I was awesome. At a function with First Form, and it was like a charity event, and you must have donated like a 200 meal box or what? No, not 200 meals.
It was Kyle.
30 meal box or whatever.
I think it was Kyle.
The St. Louis Cardinals thing.
No, it was at First Form, and Sal. It was a family friend of Sal's that lived in, I think, Arizona or something. And their child had cancer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so anyway, Kyle invited me to come, and that's the one thing I bid on in the silent auction, and I won the bid. And that was the first time I have ever used the product. And I can honestly tell you that I have used them weekly since then, and it's made. Because I never understood how to eat right, how to count macros, how to do any of that. That was something like how I get hunting, I don't get that element of fitness. Well, through my 30s, the early 30s, like up from 30 to 35, I just gained a lot of weight. And, my wife got pregnant, we got married. It was just got fat and happy, as they say. And so at 35, I started hitting the gym and working out and trying to be better. And I got that opportunity to hunt in Utah. This is all coming full circle. I got that opportunity to hunt in Utah. Luckily, I had been working out for maybe a year or so leading up to that. So I wasn't totally just out of shape. but I wasn't nowhere near where I am now. And I'm not even peak condition now. Like, as you guys know, you can always continue to get better and better and better.
Absolutely.
But that, luckily, I had been working out. I had been getting in better shape, because when I started at age 35, I turned 35, and I thought, man, I got a kid. I'm out of shape. Like, what the hell is my life going to look like at 45, at 55? Like, I'm going to be a piece of shit here. Like, I want to be active. I want to get out there. And so I was in better condition by the time that hunt happened. Needless to say, I had 10 days heads up. I had to get a gun. I had to get the scope, had to get it sighted in. I had a 30-06 Winchester XPR and using their big game expedition. And we went on this hunt 3 days of probably about 7 miles a day, I'd say 7 miles a day going up and down. And it was definitely grueling. But for me, the hardest part was day one before we ever hunted in Utah. Like, you get in and you can't hunt the first day you're there. So the guy took me to like a high ridge or mountaintop or whatever. And we went down and kind of went in after some elk just to hear them and see them and get acclimated, because I had never been on an elk hunt at that point. And we got up, the back up to the top where the truck was. And I was like, holy shit, I can't breathe. Like, that was the hardest part, was getting acclimated to just the elevation. Yeah. And once I had a killer headache like all night. I couldn't sleep. I was nervous. I'm there with Leopold, CEO, and representing our company, and it was just a lot. And after I got that bullshit kind of behind me, like, the hunting itself wasn't horrible. Like, we went at our own pace, if that makes sense. So that helped me a lot. But I can tell you this: if I hadn't been working out leading into it, I definitely would have had a much tougher time going up and down those mountains. There was just a lot to it, So anyways, ended up killing a 330 bull at 200 yards, dropped him in his tracks. And it was a trip of a lifetime. It's the only animal my wife will let. I got a shoulder mount, it's the only animal she'll let in the house. Like, everything else is at my office or here at my home office. Like,
oh, damn.
It was incredible. It'll be a trip of a lifetime, whether you kill something or not. You'll love it, man. It's a total rush.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think the physical aspect, is more. I'm looking for. Call me crazy, but that's what I'm looking forward to the most, because I haven't had any physical goals, I guess, if you will, since I quit competing in bodybuilding, and so getting in shape for something like this, that I know I have money on the line, and that it's
no turning back.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm already in it. I'm signed up. I'm ready to go. I've got money invested in it. So it's not like I can just say, piss off, I'm not going to do this and waste everything. So for me, getting in shape for this, because I know the two guys that, kind of fell out, I guess, if you will, or had some things happen. But, I'm looking forward to the physical aspect of that. But should be a good trip.
Is that a public land hunt?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it'll be a grind, man, for sure.
And the tag process, holy crap. Scott was with me in the truck. We had to be in an event the day that the tags went on sale, and the guys that I'm going with, they said, make sure you're at your computer the time they go on sale, because they will sell out in a few hours. So I was literally driving in my truck, and we pulled my truck over in a parking lot, and I flopped my computer open and got on the website, and I got in this virtual line, and I wound up being the first one out of our group of guys to get through. Nice. And then they tell you that once you get in, you're on a time limit to actually put the tags in your cart and check out, right?
Yeah.
Well, what they didn't tell me was you have to buy the hunting license for the tags to show up in there. It timed out on me 3 times. I mean, I almost broke my computer in half. I was so mad. I'm like, I went through all of this. And then I didn't know if it charged my card and all of this, but I wound up getting through it, and it was good. But
it was almost a bad day.
It was almost a very bad day.
That'll be a trip of a lifetime, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You got any opinions on let's talk about ammo for a minute. I can't find ammo to save my entire life.
And you're not gonna. I mean, it's one of those deals where, and no matter what side of the aisle your political leanings are, because of the new administration, that a Democratic administration always strikes fear in the gun community, for right or wrong, and there's always a gun and ammo grab leading into that they always said Obama was the best salesperson for the firearm industry, and I have a feeling Biden will be as well. And it's just the reality of why that happens. People think their guns are going to get taken away, and I don't ever think it'll necessarily come to that. But there could be restrictions. There could be certain things that change, and people just go nuts during these periods and buying up everything they can buy and stockpiling it. And my safe's right here, and it's just stocked with ammo. And it's just one of those things where sometimes I think, am I ever going to use all this? I don't know, but I got it. It's my right. I have it. I'm
pretty much.
I'm, a legal gun owner, and I'm safe with it. And so why can't I? That's how I look at it.
I'm the same way. I mean, I've got thousands upon thousands of rounds at my house, and I don't touch it. I haven't shot my guns the way that I normally would like to, because I don't want to shoot up everything. I won't be able to get any more.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys are making their own. My brother-in-law does, actually, and he has for years. And he's having trouble getting the casings. There's a supply and demand issue, and supply cannot keep up with demand. And then you throw in the fact that COVID shut down a lot of plants back in March, in the spring. They're already behind, and that's in all industry. Auto industry, everything that we're somehow partnered with, they all have the same problems. They cannot meet demand. So the economy's booming in that regard. People are spending the money, but they can't keep product on the shelves. And there was that hole there for a few months where they weren't making more, and they just can't keep up. And they're running lines. I know Winchester's running their plants, 24/7, and they just can't keep up with the demand, and it's not going to change. I mean, as soon as you find a sporting goods store that gets us a new shipment, I mean, it's gone like that.
I was actually I was at Sportsman's Warehouse here in Wilmington the other day. I don't remember what I went by there, but I was in there, and I was standing in the ammo aisle, and the guy had put, I don't know, man, 20 or 30 cases of 223 on the shelf. I literally stood there and was talking to a restaurant owner that I know here in town. As I'm having this conversation, I watched 20 guys walk up and grab a case and walk off with it. It was gone in 5 minutes.
The whole shipment.
While he stopped, I was standing there, and he stocked the shelf right in front of me. It was gone 5 minutes.
223 is probably the worst of all.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it anywhere.
Crazy, man. So I want to backtrack a minute. We were talking about the physical aspect of it, and I think that's one thing that's kind of catching on. I mean, I'm just now getting back into being in the outdoors, but the more stuff that I'm watching and I'm trying to learn and I'm looking at online, I think the physical aspect of athleticism is coming to play into hunting as well. And I don't know if, I mean, obviously you can look at guys like Cameron Haynes or might have a hand in that, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think there's two types of hunters in regards to the health side of things. There's the old school, the older guy, my dad and my uncle, like they're hunting a different way. They're hunting, in blinds. They have, a side by side, or they have a UTV or whatever to get kind of close to their spot. Like, it's not physically grueling for them to hunt, but that was them 30 years ago. It was, and they were hunting public land. And as they aged, as they bought their farms, hunting became something different for them. And the new wave of hunters coming in, guys our age and younger, I think it's something much different. I think they want to be in good condition. They want to, not everybody. I mean, there's a good old country boy in Iowa that's living off Casey's Pizza and Kodiak and Mountain Dew, and it's fine. You know what I mean? You're not going to change those guys. They love Monster, and
sure.
You know what I mean? But there are a lot of guys, and Cameron probably has helped that a lot, where they want to be in good condition. They want to feel good. They want to look good. They want to, they might be hunting public ground. They might be hunting out west. They might, whatever it may be, and they just want to be in good shape. And I think, companies like yours, the guys at First Farm, they're great tools for guys like me that I don't know jack about working out. I don't, it's just not that's not where my intelligence is. I don't understand a lot of it. So I work with guys that do, right? Like I learn from guys that do and try to help them with the First Farm app with my macros and tracking stuff. Like, I believe if I'm not eating a clean eats meal where it says it on the side of the package, and our first form bar. So I'm like, I never know, like if my wife's making something upstairs for dinner, it's like, shit, what do I put in for my macros here? I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like you guys have made it easier for me. And so I just feel like it's helped me in my personal goals to try to become a better, just more fit in general, which then translates out into the field. I can hunt longer, I can stand longer, last longer, whatever it may be. It just helps me, my overall fitness, my overall mental condition. You know what I mean? Having goals in the gym and those mental challenges, it helps you out in the woods as well when you're sitting for hours and not seeing a damn thing, and focus and all those types of things. It is intertwined a lot more than people think.
No doubt.
I believe, after kind of being on both sides of it.
I think the pandemic as a whole has brought out a lot more masculinity, like across the board. Like people are getting in their garages more often, either A, to make home gyms, or B, to just be handy
Just
around the
DIY
house.
projects.
And that just led into, lifting weights, that led into people getting outside and hunting more. And it's gotten kind of that itch. It got people more into fitness probably than ever before, in a sense of not going to big box gyms, but just getting into like an overall better like physical fitness side of things. And for us, because we already had the fitness side going on, we're like, well, we want to add the hunting side to the masculinity. So.
And that's a good point that you're touching on, because I think as much as we all love this, it has contributed to the decline of that masculinity.
100%.
Absolutely.
Phones and they've become couch potatoes. They're in a vegetative state on TikTok or on whatever social channel you want. And look, I get it. I mean, we all fall to it sooner or later at times, but you gotta step aside and say, all right, man, like, what am I showing my kids here? Like, this is, that we're okay. Like, I don't want them on a screen more than 15 or 20 minutes. Why the hell am I?
Right.
So what else can I do? To your point, all right, go outdoors. It costs you nothing to go for a walk or a run, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are free out there that can get you kind of rolling and start the process. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're like, yeah, maybe I do want to buy some weights or join a gym or, whatever, take it to the next level. Like, think about it. A guy that's spending $7-8 at a fast food restaurant every day for lunch or whatever it may be. Think about if you bought your clean eats meals instead, and all of a sudden you're going from 750 calories to 450, or 5 grams of protein to 22, or whatever it may be. Like, if you start thinking about it differently, all of a sudden your mentality changes and your life starts to change. And you didn't even have to do that much to make a change for the better. Are you in a rut? Are you in a depression? Are you just thinking, I'm not getting the max out of this body? You can change it. And it's not that hard. You just got to make that first step. And
we didn't watch as much sports. You and I have both talked about that a bunch. Like
none.
And we were dying for sports to come back. And we bought those bows and we were like, this is free entertainment.
Yeah.
And we were so hyped about it.
I know something to segue off of what you were just saying. One of the things, and it kind of irritates me when I hear this, and I've heard a couple guys say it, and I've heard a couple guys put it on the internet, and they've said stuff like this. And basically what they're saying is that, being in the outdoors now and getting out and being in the outdoors is becoming a fad. It's becoming a trend. And, they were kind of knocking this. And I was like, I can't get down with that. I don't agree with you because, what you were saying about, and the question that I asked was bringing the athleticism into being in the outdoors and kind of intertwining that. What is the problem with people realizing how good being in the outdoors can affect their life and intertwining different things that they do to make themselves better in a positive direction? It irritates me when I see guys do that.
It's a weird thing because a lot of people are complacent in where their food comes from and they don't want to think about it. And so hunting for them is the masculinity has started to, in the last 30, 40 years, has just slowly declined. The less blue collar guys, less, there's more. I sit behind a desk all the time. It's just, there's so many things that have kind of taken away guys for utilizing what we naturally have gained over, hundreds of thousands of years. We're just kind of putting that on the shelf now. And we use our fingers to type, and that's, we use our mind and all that, but we don't use our physical body as much. So I just think we're in a weird spot, and people are starting to realize, like, you know what, I can change this. I can get out more. I can, and so that mentality that they had about food and where it comes from is starting to change. Like, it's not murder, which is what people will say that are vehemently against it, or it's not just trophy hunting. Like, I can tell you right now, like, my kids eat more, deer sausage and deer sticks, and they love it. You know what I mean? And anybody that in my neighborhood that doesn't hunt, that I've given some to, and they eat it and they're like, holy cow, this is really good. I always thought it was gamey. It's like, no, there's a billion different ways you can make it to where it's fantastic. You could eat at the fanciest restaurant and have this and never realize it. So it's trying to break down the barriers. It's trying to be a good representative for that lifestyle. And you can't pull people into it. You got to slowly introduce them and kind of hold their hand and bring them along the way and teach them why it can be good. And I think that's not that indifferent from what, like, I keep going back to this, what you guys do, what guys are First Form do. Like, you have to teach them so they understand the whys. And if they can understand the whys, then you kind of give them the hows. And then all of a sudden they're starting to do it themselves, and then they can be a representative to get somebody into that lifestyle.
No doubt. Well said.
I know, talking about making the food, man, that's another reason why I wanted to get back into this, was from the culinary aspect. I mean, we're in the restaurant business, so trying to experiment around and make food a different way and use game to do that, I think, is awesome. But
yeah.
Got some quail at home I'm excited to mess with.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you, man, so much for coming on. I think we'll wrap it up there. But, man, this was awesome. This was awesome, man. I learned a lot just sitting here and just shooting the shit.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. And I was, like I said, I was excited because you guys have helped me change my life in a lot of ways with the meals that you guys put out there. And even through the deer season, like, deer season is always tough for me because we hunt so much. I stopped working out in a lot of, for basically 2 months. We're hunting every day, we're out there. And one thing that keeps me kind of in check, I eat your meals every day, and I am not BSing you guys at all. And even like through Christmas, the Christmas break and all the different functions I went to, and it's like, all right, start seeing the weight go up a little bit. And I start cutting it back down by getting back on the program and eating these meals. And I just had one for lunch, and it's, hibachi beef. And there's always so many different choices. Like, you don't get tired of it. There's always so many choices. So I gotta say thank you. I'm a fan, and this isn't a plug. I buy the meals. I love them. And anytime someone asks me about them, I'm happy to say, hey, check this place out. So
thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. So
all right, guys. Well, thanks again for having me on.
All righty, man. Take it easy, man. Thank you again.
All right. Peace.
Till next time, guys.